What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. First up, Beijing is not very happy with the G7 in a move that Chinese state media has labeled as, quote, the West launching ideological warfare, end quote. Over the weekend, G7 foreign ministers met in Liverpool to discuss a broad range of topics, with one topic of concern receiving the most attention: China. The United Kingdom's Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, acting too as the chair of the G7 Foreign and Development Ministers meeting, expressed in her statement, quote, on China, we discussed a range of issues and challenges, such as the situation in Hong Kong and Xinjiang, in the East and South China Seas, and the importance of peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. We also expressed our concern about coercive economic policies, end quote. The European Union's High Representative Joseph Borrell, after speaking about Russian troops on the Ukrainian border, also expressed, quote, China represents today a challenge, a strategic and ideological challenge, end quote. The G7 is made up of the United States, Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan, plus a representative of the European Union. So, what was Beijing's response to the G7 statement? Well, yesterday, People's Republic of China Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin expressed, quote, speaking of coercive economic policies, who imposed economic embargoes and blockades on China in the 1950s and 1960s, and who has waged a trade war against China and mounted pressure and restrictions on Chinese companies in recent years? The relevant country should answer these questions first and stop putting the blame on the victim, end quote. Shortly after this statement, state-run Global Times wrote, quote, the West now portrays themselves as a victim of alleged Chinese economic coercion, under which they are able to weaponize political and economic tools to crack down on China's rise. At first glance, the move seems like a defense, but it is well-prepared collective warfare, end quote. Over the last 2 days, we have been discussing the recent outbreak of COVID in the economically critical region of Zhejiang in East China, around the heart of the Yangtze River, hugging the city of Shanghai, as well as the first Omicron case discovered in the mainland. We have more details now about the situation, which has not improved in the last 24 hours. The outbreak continues to spread, though it is not blowing up currently. It is not under control either. The manufacturing hub of Zhejiang has more than 60 million people, with the recent outbreak putting more than 570,000 residents under quarantine in just a few days. It is now clear, according to authorities, that this outbreak has been linked to a spreader event at a funeral. People have been restricted from leaving the province until March 15th. This is likely a political calculation, with next year's Olympics ending around that time. Yesterday we discussed China's first official Omicron case, which was discovered in the northern port city of Tianjin, about an hour from the capital of Beijing. We learned today that the patient is a foreigner, a Polish teenager who traveled with her mother to China and showed no symptoms during her quarantine. Now another Omicron case has been discovered, this one on the other side of the country in China's other major economic region, the Pearl River Delta. The Guangzhou Municipal Health Commission confirmed today that a 67-year-old man under home quarantine was found to have the Omicron variant. According to state media, the man arrived in Guangzhou on December the 11th after coming back from an overseas destination on November 27th and undergoing 14 days of quarantine in another city. As we've discussed many times now, due to China's zero cases policy, even a small number of cases can cause large and expensive disruptions. Now that cases are being discovered in China's key economic regions, these disruptions are going to be even more expensive. State media admits that the economic consequences of this new outbreak will not be small, with state-run Global Times writing today, quote, businesses in Zhejiang are facing logistical challenges which may impact clothing firms and other sectors of the local economy after factory activity and transportation channels in parts of the province were suspended amid the recent resurgence of COVID virus cases. Starting December 8th, all companies except for those making essential products or personal protective equipment in Zhenhai, for example, a district in Ningbo, have been required to suspend production. Now, this is the case for several other major districts across the province of 60 million people, including key hubs for textile dye firms and the domestic petrochemical industry. On Tuesday, in a speech for the 11th National Congress of the China Federation of Literary and Art Circles and the 10th National Congress of the China Writers Association, General Secretary Xi Jinping gave instructions to artists and writers in China about how they can, quote, add new luster to Chinese culture, end quote. The General Secretary opened by expressing how, quote, over the past 100 years, the party has led the art front to blaze a path of development that has been guided by Marxism, end quote, and he urged the, quote, creation of more globally recognizable cultural images of China that can help present a lively and multidimensional China for the world, end quote. According to state-run Xinhua Media, Xi also noted that to make socialist literature and art prosper, writers and artists who are patriotic and eager to contribute should be widely united under the leadership of the party, and concluded, quote, we should cherish our social influence and seriously consider the social effect of our works. If a writer or artist engages in misconduct, the people will not accept it, nor will the Times. All writers and artists should observe their taste, style, and responsibility, conscientiously abide by the law, public order, and good customs, conscientiously resist money worship, hedonism, and extreme individualism, and behave in an open and honest manner. End quote. A special Page 1 report with the Central State-run Economic Daily this week discussed the future of coal in China. Now, this is a topic that we have been following very closely on here for several months now. The authoritative article expressed that China's coal consumption will gradually reduce, but, quote, at the same time, coal is by far the most reliable source of electricity, end quote. The report continued that coal should gradually evolve from a main energy source to a supporting energy source. Quote, even if carbon neutrality is fully realized in the future, coal is indispensable for electricity and the fundamental energy source for relieving oil and gas dependence on foreign countries and ensuring energy security, end quote. It is estimated that by the time of carbon neutrality, China's annual coal demand will still be at about 1.2 billion tons. Now, this article was published just a few days after top officials in Beijing, including a former senior official with the powerful National Development and Reform Commission, expressed in separate statements that China should make clean and efficient use of coal rather than phase it out, given, quote, the fuel's dominant role in the country's power generation and consumption, end quote. Now, these statements in this article seem to be strong signs from Beijing that coal is here to stay. And last up, the economy. The local government debt time bomb situation has been a concern for years now, but recent developments suggest that the situation is increasingly recognized as unsustainable. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button. It's the only way a small channel like this will be shown to new people. And if you're watching this for the first time and you're getting some value from it, maybe consider subscribing. Hit that bell notification and you'll have the most up-to-date analysis on China as I release it every day. The 21st Century Business Herald reported yesterday that several provinces, including Hunan, Jiangsu, Yunnan, and Guizhou, are seeking to allow for bankruptcy or liquidation for debts held by local government financing vehicles that were previously believed by many investors to be 100% safe for investors, as the central government has for years prioritized preventing, quote, damages to the local financing environment, end quote. But even with this red flag, local governments face serious financing pressures and as such continue to borrow to meet spending obligations. Chinese financial media outlet Caixin Media reports yesterday that China has issued local government quotas early. The consensus amongst analysts and economists over this move is that this is to get local governments to start spending early in order to reverse the recent slowdown in growth, even though there are strong signs across several provinces that the operations of local government financing vehicles are simply not sustainable. Based on this year's quota, the State Council can release as much as 2.19 trillion RMB, approximately $350 billion, of borrowing authority for local governments. According to the Caixin article, some Chinese provinces received their allocation for local government borrowing in 2022 earlier than the timetable for this year, and that, quote, the early release of borrowing authorizations from the central government can help local authorities speed up infrastructure spending, end quote. Hey guys, I'd love to hear what you thought about some of the updates we covered in today's episode, so throw your comments below. Always love hearing from you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.